And a good Monday evening. Welcome into week 2 of Time Out here on TVNB. My name is Jim Hennessy. Nice to have you tuned in. Hope your Monday is going well. And we'll be joined by Barry Johnston in just a few moments' time. What we're going to do is give you the rundown on the show in case you missed it last week. What we're doing is basically running the highlights from the week gone by in the world of sports. Now, first off, we'll be diving into baseball. It's Game 5 in the New Brunswick Senior Baseball Final as the St. John Alpines in a must-win situation against the Chatham Ironmen on a cool Thursday evening at Memorial Field. Now, before we get to the game highlights, we had a chance to talk to center fielder for the Chatham Ironmen, Dino Gallant. No, going into tonight's game, how do you feel?
Well, it's a big game for us, for sure. This game is a pivotal game, 3-1. You know, we got we got the whole lineup here tonight, so it's a great thing, you know, having the whole team here. We got all our good bats, you know, David Godfrey's here, Jonathan Saunders, myself, everybody, you know, we can contribute and help this. We haven't won in 17 years, so it'd be a great thing to win tonight.
You've been one of the steadiest hitters in this lineup throughout these first 4 games of this series. Playing with injuries, your hamstring, I know, has been pulled, it's been bothering you. I mean, you got to feel good about this. Well,
it's a playoff time, and you got to play hurt. You know, it's like I said, we haven't won for a long time, and I'll do anything. I don't care about a broken arm. I'll play ball, especially, you know, in this type of weather. You got to play. You know.
Going with a junior pitcher on the mound tonight. How do you feel about that?
Well, he's a good young pitcher, and you know, he's got a lot of guts. He pitched well against last year's against Fredericton, so hopefully tonight he'll just pitch like he did last time. So
right to the highlights we go. Jay McGee on the mound for the St. John Alpines, but Matt Jenkins leads off with a single for the Ironmen. And a very cool, brisk night at Memorial Field. Jay McGee having a little bit of trouble starting, trying to keep his arm warm. Then, of course, you'll see David Godfrey. He jumps all over the first pitch, matching a 2-run blast over the center field wall, and that gives the Ironmen the early 2-0 lead. And that would be pretty much all the offense we'd see from the Ironmen until later on in this game, as Godfrey takes his stroll around third. And the Ironmen jump up to an early lead here, but it would be short-lived. As we get ready to head to the bottom of the first now, rookie pitcher Robbie Martin with his first ever senior baseball start, and it would be short-lived. Greg Arnold leads off with a single, and then Brent McClellan is hit with a pitch, and he takes one for the team in a tough way. But this really starts off the Alpines rally and gets things into high gear here. Then he serves up a walk to third baseman Timmy Moore, so he loads up the bases, the rookie pitcher with nobody out. Ironman head coach Greg Morris comes out to the hill to try to settle down the rookie pitcher. But the Alpine assault continues. There's Sean Crawford driving a solid single into center field. And before the inning is out, that would give the Alpines an early 3-2 lead. And the rookie pitcher Robbie Martin, unfortunately on this night in his first ever senior baseball start, will get an early shower. There's Greg Morris getting the ball from Martin. And a real tough night for this rookie pitcher. And the Ironmen bring in Jeff Agnew, and he gets them out of the jam. So the score after 1 complete is the Alpines 3 and the Chatham Ironmen 2. Here in the top of the second, a throwing error by the Alpine second baseman could have proved to be fatal. But the runner is left stranded as Jay McGee records another strikeout on the night. So the Alpines keep their lead intact. Here in the bottom of the second, the Alpines continue their assault as Greg Arnold takes a leadoff walk. Then Brent McClellan strokes a single into right field. That puts runners at the corners with nobody out. Brent McClellan with a huge night at the plate. Then Kellen Ring gives the Alpines a 4-2 lead with an RBI single to the hot corner. And then Jeff Agnew would come in to settle down the next 3 batters and get Chatham out of the inning. So the score is now 4-2 after 2 complete. And then bad news for Chatham is left fielder Dino Gallant. You see him being hit with the pitch. And we talked to Dino earlier in the game. He was playing with a sore hamstring as well. Dino suffers a small cut over the eyebrow, but he's tough. He stays in the game. You see the coaches and trainers out there fixing him up. Now the Ironmen try to get something going, but stellar defensive plays for the Alpines extinguish the threat. So in the bottom of the 5th, the Alpines have a runner on first. You see Greg Arnold hitting a shot into left field. Looks fairly routine, but the error lets Adam Power score from first. And Greg Arnold has himself a stand-up double, so it's 5-2 Alpines. Then Brent McClellan continues his hot bat. He hits a 2-out single to bring home Greg Arnold and increase the Alpines' lead to 6-2. And then the floodgates go wide open as catcher Colin Ring launches a 2-run blast onto Dever Road, at least 400 feet, and that blows the game wide open. 8-2 now the score. As Cullen takes his home run trot around third. There's Brent McClellan coming into home. Cullen Ring coming around third. And Cullen with a lot of intentional walks in this series so far, so he was happy to get his bat into gear. And the Alpines now looking for Moore. Speaking of Moore, here's Timmy Moore. He strokes a single to center field, and that will be the night for Jeff Agnew. See Greg Morris out on the mound. So relief pitcher Terry Leggett comes in to try to shut down the Alpines' threat here, leading 8-2. And Leggett does exactly that. He closes out the Alpines' threat. So it's an 8-2 lead for the Alpines here in Game 5 as they look to stay alive. Top of the 6th, Alpines have a little trouble on the defensive end. Center fielder Nick Power takes a shot off the shoulder, and he is down. Kevin McClellan is in with a stand-up double, and after being shaken up a little bit, Power does stay in the game. Bottom of the 6th, Nick Power takes the lead-off walk here and advances to second with a wild pitch from Leggett. And Leggett wouldn't see much action after that as Andrew Higgins tosses him from the game after throwing at Scott Martin. You see Higgins making the lineup changes and Leggett leaving the field. Jean-Luc Godin is now in for Chatham. Adam Power reaches first on a throwing error by the second baseman. Godin strikes out the next batter. And then the Alpines' threat is put to a close. So Jean-Luc Godin comes in. Good relief for the Ironmen on this night. Last chance for Chatham here in the top of the 7th. They finally crack Alpine starter Jay McGee. Sharp single from Chris Duplessis. Then he walks Matt Jenkins and serves up a single to Trayer to leave the bases loaded with nobody out. Jay McGee with a huge defensive play here gives Chatham into a 1-2-3 double play. Stellar defensive play by Jay McGee. Then he serves up a double to Dino Gallant. Gallant hit one to the wall here in left field. And that closes up the gap to 8-4 Alpines. McGee then walks John Saunders and is replaced by Game 3 hero Scotty Martin. You'll see the routine fly out here. And that is the game. Alpines win. We chat with head coach Mike Skid
tomorrow night. And you know, I think that obviously it's they took the home field advantage away from us. It's a situation now where they're going to be home for the 6th game in front of a big crowd. You know, obviously the advantage goes to them. But, you know, what I'm hoping is if we can put a couple numbers up early, you know, sometimes that advantage can become a disadvantage. You know, maybe take them out of their game plan a bit. And that's what our goal is. We haven't been able to score the entire series early. And, like, I can't recall through the first 6 games, but I don't think it's very often we have the lead early in the game. So, I mean, that's our goal tomorrow night, and I hope the bats come around, and hopefully things will be able to have an opportunity to play back here on Sunday.
So it's Friday night in Chatham. The Alpines in another must-win situation, and they get to the Ironmen early as a double brings in 2 for the Alpines and gives them the early 2-0 lead with the double off the center field wall. And then coming up here in the bottom of the 1st, Chatham's Kevin McLean hits a 2-run single to deadlock the score at 2 apiece. And that is welcome news to the Chatham faithful on hand. And that's the way the score remained until the top of the 5th. Here's Nick Power. He tries to get something going, giving full effort to leg out a single, but is called out. Greg Arnold then strokes a single. Cullen Ring then hits a stand-up double to advance the runners to 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. Matt Jenkins will take over from Gary Trayer on the hill for Chatham. Greg Morris out there. And then Chris Duplessis with the throwing error of Brent McClellan allows Greg Arnold to score. And that makes the score 3-2 Alpines after 4.5. Bottom of the 5th, Ironmen now have runners on the corners with 2 out. And David Godfrey smashes a 3-run shot off Scotty Martin to give the Ironmen a 5-3 lead in this pivotal Game 6 in this best-of-7 series. Godfrey's had an outstanding bat all throughout these first 6 games. The Alpines would then move on to score 1 more run to close the gap to 5-4, and a golden opportunity for St. John to take back the lead in the top of the 7th. So the bases were loaded, 2 out. Adam Power then strikes out to end the Alpine's threat. And Chatham takes the best-of-7 final, 4-2, and gives the Ironmen their first provincial baseball championship in 17 years. So you can imagine the party going on in Chatham on Friday night. Congratulations to the Ironmen. And, of course, the Ironmen will play host to the National Baseball Championships, which will be played next July. We're going to take a quick time out. We've got some of the action going on around town coming up during the break, and then we'll be back to chat with Barry Johnston about more in the world of sports, so stay right there.
What is a family? A family is a group of people who look out for each other. A family provides warmth and support, a haven of safety where children can grow.
If you believe in family, you believe in Amnesty International, because Amnesty International brings to light crimes governments commit against families everywhere.
Crimes against the human family. In parts of the world, families are forced from their homes simply because of their race.
Fathers are disappeared. Mothers are beaten and raped by the very police who are supposed to protect them.
And men, women, and even children are executed because of their opinions, their religion, or ethnic origin.
You have the power. Keep the light on human rights. Join Amnesty International. Call 1-800-AMNESTY. 1-800-AMNESTY.
This is TVNB, the New Brunswick channel, owned and operated by Fundy Communications.
And welcome back to Time Out here on TVNB. Jim Hennessy along with Barry Johnston. And before we get going any further, check out the 2 numbers on the bottom of your screen. That is a phone number and a fax number. If you do have a schedule to send to us or some sports results, feel free to either give us a call on the voicemail, or if you want to send it to us via the fax machine, no problem at all. So let's get down to business now. You see me holding a bat here, and Barry sitting looking a little nervous. Don't worry about it. No, we're just, of course, we're going to talk about baseball. The regular season wrapped up on Sunday. And, of course, we got to talk about Mark McGwire. 70 home runs. He is the undisputed king. Sammy Sosa goes 2 for 5, I should say, at the plate. Had a strikeout, but, of course, he's in the wild card. But first, let's touch on Mark McGwire. 70 home runs this season. That's simply phenomenal.
It's just totally remarkable how he can, as I said earlier, we were talking, I said, you know, it's a round bat and a round ball, but he hits it square every time.
Certainly does. And the 46,000 on hand at Busch Stadium, of course, every time he's come to the plate. I think it started around number 50. Every time he came to the plate, he got a standing ovation, whether he be at home, whether he be it on the road. And what does this do for the game of baseball, especially, let's think, around here with the senior final wrapping up on Friday night. Of course, baseball, a lot of people say they're having a hard time bringing the crowds out to Memorial Field. So what does this do for the baseball scene here on the local front?
I think on the local front, it's putting a lot of interest into it. It's too bad now it's you know, the season's pretty well done. We're just waiting now for the World Series and the playoffs in the majors. And as we all know, senior baseball is now finished for the year. But I think it's going to be a build-up for next year. I think it's going to do quite well next year. And it's going to put some fans in the seats in the major leagues, too, because they're going to be wanting to see Mark McGwire again next year, and the likes of Sammy Sosa and Ken Griffey Jr. and a few others that have had some good seasons with the home runs, but just haven't gotten the the credibility in it because everybody's been watching Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire.
Absolutely. Now, what about all this kerfuffle that was blown up about, I can't remember the technical name for it. You know it a little better than I do.
I believe it's called anatestedione, something like that.
That's the one right there. Now, of course, there's been a lot of blow up about this, that if McGwire wasn't taking this, he wouldn't be hitting the home runs or as many as he has over the past couple of years. It's not a banned substance by Major League Baseball, by the NFL, by the IOC it is. Your feelings on that?
Well, the drug, I'll just briefly give a brief description of that. And it gives an effect of a steroid, and it has the very same effects of testosterone-releasing agents and things like that in it. And I think it may have given him some more power to hit the ball out of the park, but for him to hit that ball that squarely every time, that's hand-eye coordination. That doesn't have anything to do with the drug. That just, you know, I don't think it should be taken away from him because, I mean, look at Sammy Sosa. He could do it without it too, or so he claims. He's not, you know, he's drug-free. So. No, I think Mark McGwire deserves all the credit he's gotten because, like I say, it's hand-eye coordination, and he did it quite well.
So the New York Yankees will flip over to the American League here. They set a new standard for wins this year. Bernie Williams, of course, on Sunday wrapped up with the American League batting crown. Is there anybody that can stop the Yankees coming into the playoff drive here, or are they just too strong?
I just hope that they're not into a position where they're going to choke come the playoff run because I hope they just didn't peak, you know, all season, and all of a sudden now the wind's out of their sail now. With the likes of Cone, Wells, you know, their pitching staff is just phenomenal. I mean, I know Cone and Wells were a little, you know, upset because of the fact they were bringing in all the young players from down in their AAA league and whatnot, their affiliates. And I think that, you know, Cone and Wells wanted to chalk up quite a few more wins there, and I think they could have done it. But I think it's a well-deserved break for the playoff run, and I think it was a smart decision.
Let's talk about the Toronto Blue Jays season. Of course, everybody thought the sluggish start that they did get off to, that this team was going to dwell in the basement for the entire season. Then all of a sudden the All-Star break rolls around. Rocket Roger, of course, was very vocal, saying he wanted to play for a contending team. He'd give up all his Cy Young and all the other awards he's gotten over the years to win that one elusive World Series. And then all of a sudden they turn into a contending team. You see the Blue Jay hats coming back out on the streets of St. John. You see a little more interest in the ball games on Friday night, on Saturday afternoon. They end up just shy of the wild card spot. I think the Red Sox were just a little too strong coming down the stretch. Your feelings on the Blue Jays season in general?
I think the Blue Jays weren't expecting anything great this year with Mike Johnson as the manager. And I think for them to finish the way they did is quite respectable under the fact that they don't have Joe Carter this year. You know, they've lost a lot of key players, and because of the dollar, and just can't sign these players. And I think they did quite well. I mean, they snuck up into the wild card race. I mean, nobody was really watching them. Everybody had them just wrote right off and saying, well, bye-bye, see you later. But no, that was quite respectable this year. And I think Roger Clemens should be fairly happy. So, he had a good season, 20 wins.
Does he pick up his second straight Cy Young Award?
I don't know. I think the Yankees are looking pretty good in that category. They have two or three there.
Okay, let's run this down. Pedro Martinez, I think he's out of the running just because of the September he had. You've got David Cone, who picked up his 20th win. You've got David Wells, who pitched simply outstanding. Of course, he pitched a perfect game back in May at Yankee Stadium. Who else is there to run down here? We got Roger Clemens, David Wells, David Cone. Is there anybody else that's got a shot at this?
I don't know. I think that's your three main ones right there that I can think of off the top of my head right now. So, no.
But does Roger bring this thing home?
He might.
Yeah. The ERA playing for a contending team, I mean, that was the big kerfuffle with everybody that, yeah, the Rocket Man's got a good ERA, he's got a decent record, but he's not playing for a contending team, so you don't really get the spotlight that a David Wells or David Cone would get. Yeah. But then all of a sudden the Blue Jays reel off 11 straight wins, and they're right back in the thick of this wild card hunt. Kaboom. All of a sudden he's a contender again for the American League Cy Young. Yeah. The big question here is, after signing that huge multi-million-dollar deal a couple of years back, does the Rocket Man stay in Toronto, or is he blasting off and heading for Texas like he said he'd like to?
I think he's heading off. I think he's got his airline ticket bought and paid for, and he's on his way out. I don't think he's going to stick around in Canada too much longer, because I feel for him. He's not getting any younger, and he wants to get a title under his belt, and I don't blame him for leaving.
You don't think the Jays are ready to open up the coffers, shall we say, and bring in some more players? I mean, they've got a pretty good, you look at the lineup, and I mean, a lot of people said that this lineup was thrown together, it was makeshift, it was AAA at best, they were turning into the Montreal Expos Part 2, and then all of a sudden they fooled everybody, like we said, and made the run for the wild card. So that they open up the coffers a little bit. I mean, Carlos Delgado, he'll be on the market. He had a 100 RBI plus season, ended up with 30 plus home runs, and I mean, this is a guy who was hurt for the first 2 months or the first month and a half of the season, he was a total write-off. And now all of a sudden he comes up with the big numbers. Jose Canseco is another one who's on the trading block right now.
Yeah.
He ends up with 45 home runs on the season. His average, Jose's average was he was never a 300 hitter. He's lost a step running the bases, but do you bring this guy back?
I think they definitely need a power hitter. I mean, the DH, they need a DH. I mean, Joe Carter was their good one. He was basically their utility player. He could play the field, he could play first base, and he could hit the ball. But with Canseco, I think they need to keep him there as a DH. I think they should open up a little bit for him. But as far as everybody else, I don't know. I think Delgado now is going to be asking for some big bucks.
Oh,
I mean, he's had a very, very good season this year.
All right, now let's go to Montreal. Of course, they've got till the end of this month, or so the powers that be say, that if there's not a new deal for a new ballpark, which is in the range of $250 million, I believe, they're out of Dodge. And Washington has gone on record saying that they would love to have this ball team, but the problem is they don't have a ballpark for them to start next year. So do they start in Florida, play their first 30 games there? Do they start at the Big O, play their first 30 games there? Or is Bouchard going to cough up the cash, give this team what it needs, and keep the Montreal Expos in Montreal?
You and I have talked before about Bouchard. He says that we're closing hospital beds, so how can we justify building a $250
Probably the most
million?
logical thing he's ever said in his life.
Well, we're not going to get into the political aspect of that stuff here. Not on this show anyway. That'd be for another show.
We'll let Lowry take care of that.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But no, that's good reasoning on his part. I mean, they are closing beds, and they can't open it up for $1 million athletes.
So we're looking at the St. John Flames now. They held their first open ice practices Saturday and Sunday at Harbor Station. Rick Vive, Jeff Perry, both there. And pretty much a makeshift lineup. I mean, a few faces that were familiar. Eric Landry was there. Jean-Sébastien Giguère was there. Igor Karpenko, which I know is a thumbs up for Flames fans. If you're out there listening right now, they hear that name, they say, we got Igor. And we're ecstatic about it because, I mean, here is a goaltender that came in last year. They pull him out of Port Huron on the road when Giguère and Tyler Moss both fall underneath the illness. He comes in, 3 games, 2 shutouts, and he only gave up 1 goal in the 3rd game. I mean, this is a guy that St. John Flame fans have got to be drooling about.
I think so. I was looking down the roster for the Flames this year, and I think they're going to be fairly respectable this year. So I think they're going to be solid in goal. I mean, there's no question there. I mean, with Giguère and Karpenko there, I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, the only thing better than that would have been Rolison and Moss maybe,
exactly.
But we know that's not going to happen again in the near future. So, no, I think the Flames are looking good. The only thing I think they're lacking is a real good goal scorer, a 50-goal scorer, 30-goal scorer at least.
Can they contend in this league? I mean, we know that they can contend. I mean, they made the playoffs the first 5 years that they've been here in town. But the question is, with the expectations so high from last year, I mean, coming 1 game short of winning the whole kit and caboodle, can they contend? Can they make a decent run at this thing? Or have they got just a little too much youth here and it's going to take a couple of more years to build it back up to where it should be?
Well, I think people should keep in mind that this is a building league. It's a rebuilding league from year to year. Most of these AHL teams, you don't get the same players back year after year unless you got a very, very good parent club that has a lot of money that they can dish out to keep the players there, like Philadelphia did, the last couple of years.
Absolutely.
So people shouldn't have that big of high expectations of you being a contender again this year. So I think they should just be patient, and I think it'll all work out just fine.
Okay, let's flip over to the NHL here real quick. We got the season starting up very, very shortly. Who do you like? Who don't you like? And who do you think is going to be a huge contender this year?
I think Detroit is the repeat. I think they're going to come back.
Three-peat.
I think they're going to three-peat.
Really?
The team that
Okay.
I think that is really going to be struggling bad, I think, is going to be Vancouver this year. I don't think that they're going to do that great. I don't know. Montreal looks to be a little shaky too because they can't sign some of their key players that they want to get signed. Toronto's not looking too bad this year. Ottawa, about the same. I don't think they're going to change a whole lot from previous years. Calgary, who knows? Who really knows there? I mean, it's just unbelievable.
So are you taking them as your dark horse, is what you're telling me?
Yeah.
So if they make the playoffs, it's something that you didn't expect, but hey, they made it, so let's give it to them.
Yeah.
What do you think the main problem is out there? I mean, Brian Sutter, he had a full year last year to try to take this team under control. Al Coates, of course, he's on the hot seat, has been, I would say, in my opinion, for about the past year and a half. Now, all of a sudden, he's got a team. Looks like he's got some decent people who can put the puck in the net. Sort of looks like an old-timers hockey team. If you look down the lineup, some of the players, Phil Housley. What do you think? Can this team make it into the playoffs for the first time since 1989?
If they make it, it'll be a miracle this year. They have to open up the pocketbook, the checkbook, and start signing some players and spending some money. I realize the Canadian market won't allow it, and they're going with a lot of young talent, and they've been doing that for the last 2-3 years, and it just hasn't been working. They should be seeing that by now. But something else I'd like to touch on just quickly is the 4-man referee system.
Yes.
I think it's a good idea. I was reading about it in some of the papers, and I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to really tone down the game quite a bit. You're going to see less chippiness behind the play. I realize that I believe each team gets 15 games home and away with the 4-man system, and I think it's a great idea. And plus, it's a good idea. It's a good thing for the up-and-coming referees.
Well, they're going to give it a shot, and we'll see how they make out anyway. We're out of time. Can't believe it's gone by that fast. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm going to put the baseball bat down now. It may still make you very nervous. Thank you for tuning in. Come back and join us next Monday at 6 o'clock. You've been watching Time Out here on TVNB.